Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Earth Updated Show with Nigel O'Brien. I hope everyone is doing well in these tough times. International Whale Shark Day, which is celebrated on 30th of August, aims to increase the awareness for the decline of numbers of whale sharks to their need for protection and conservation. Despite their size, they are considered gentle giants, and according to the International Union for Conservation of Nature, whale sharks are one of the most vulnerable marine animals. And on to green news from all over the world. First off, we have Greenland lost a record amount of ice during an extra warm 2019, with melt massive enough to cover California with more than 4 feet of water, according to a new study. With 2 summers ice melt being to a minimal, last year's record shattered with 586 billion tons of ice melting, according to a satellite measurement result. This translates to slowly rising sea levels, coastal flooding, and many other problems. And then we have Indonesia's Mount Sinabung volcano erupts twice in 3 days after being dormant for over a year. Luckily, there were no fatalities or injuries, but the villagers are advised to stay 3.1 miles away from the crater and being aware of the peril of the lava. We thought coronavirus was everything 2020 had for us. And lastly, CO2 emissions in the earlier warm days were pulse-like, but today's anthropogenic CO2 emissions are 6 times larger and 10 times faster. Well, that's all for Green News tonight, folks. But up next, we have a very special guest. Viewers, tonight we have a lady who is a true vegan. No, not your run-of-the-mill vegetarian. A vegan is much more than that. Just stick with us as she shares her journey from a meat lover to strictly going for a diet with conscious. Good evening, ma'am. Before I introduce you...
Hi, Nigel.
Yes, ma'am. Before I introduce you, I would just like to ask you a simple question that I so smartly posed but don't really know myself. What indeed is the difference between a vegetarian and a vegan?
So Nigel, basically there's quite a bit of a difference between a vegetarian and a vegan, right?
Yes,
a
ma'am.
vegetarian, a person who follows a vegetarian diet, it includes just the diet and nothing more than that.
Okay.
But veganism is a way of life. It's not just a diet. A vegan basically follows a plant-based diet. So, whereas a vegetarian would, consume dairy, that would be ghee, butter, paneer, cheese, etc. In a vegan diet, you follow a totally plant-based diet. A vegetarian can bear fur, leather, wool, all these things that come from animals basically. They're all animal products, right? But in
Yes,
a
ma'am.
vegan, does not wear any clothing that comes from an animal.
Okay.
A vegan would not go for any entertainment that is where animal exploitation takes place. For example, circuses, zoos, that kind of
Yes,
thing.
ma'am.
A vegan also basically tries to avoid as far as possible medication that medication and cosmetics where it is animal tested. They try to avoid it. In many cases, it's not possible. In most cases, where medication is concerned, because it's difficult to know whether that particular medicine was animal tested or not.
Okay.
But they try to as far as possible.
Okay.
Right.
Well, there you are,
That is
people.
basic.
Now you know what
Yes, sir.
true veganism means. And with me on the call, we have Miss Sandra Hendricks, who is, I'm sure, going to turn you into a vegan by the end of the show. Well, jokes apart,
I hope so, Nigel.
Yes, ma'am. She runs a brand called Hiyachi and Reggie's Food, which serves up delicious vegan food every day. So, ma'am, do tell us about how you first came to adopt veganism.
There was a transitioning point in my life, say about I would say about 7-8 years ago, where feeling more towards animals, and that's when I adopted my first dog.
Okay.
She was a stray dog, and I started thinking that what's the difference between? I mean, I love my dog. I would not go and cut my dog's throat and make curry out of
Yes,
her,
ma'am.
right?
Sure thing.
So what's the difference between a goat and my dog? Or what's the difference between a chicken and my dog? Or what's the difference between a fish and my dog? Basically, all of them feel pain, right?
Yes, ma'am.
The same way that my dog would feel pain, all these animals that I have been consuming or utilizing in some way or the other feel pain.
Yes, ma'am.
So that was the realization point in my life when I got my first dog. And
Okay.
I started, viewing this, my entire life from a different perspective. And, slowly I started educating myself about what happens in a slaughterhouse, what happens to a dairy cow, which is used for milk all her life, right? Like,
Yes,
in
ma'am.
most cases, a dairy cow is plugged up to a machine all her life. And when she can't give milk anymore, she's sent to the slaughterhouse or for leather. So I started educating myself. It was a very involuntary thing. I never planned it, right? But I started reading more. I started seeing more things on the internet. I started learning that
Okay.
the actual thing that takes place with animals. I think that was the turning point, Nigel.
So now you're a true vegan, right? So have you ever inspired anyone else to become a vegan like you? And are there any major success in that?
Actually, Nigel, most of the time, most vegans, I think, feel a lot of pain because you can't really do anything about a goat
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
outside a mutton shop and you're passing it every day, right?
Yes, ma'am.
You can't do anything about the chicken being slaughtered.
Yes, ma'am.
And most of the time you feel very discouraged. A vegan feels very discouraged because when you bring up the topic of veganism to anybody,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
initial reaction of most people is, what are you talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
God created us. Some give you the argument of God created us to be the most superior being,
Yes, ma'am.
right? Some will give you the argument of that plants feel pain also.
Yes,
right?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Not plants feel pain, I'm sorry. Plants are living beings also.
That's
right?
what-
So
Yes, ma'am.
everybody has a ready answer when, or I would say at least most people have a ready answer when you talk to them about veganism.
Yes, ma'am.
And most people are basically poking fun at you when you talk about this. Nobody really wants to listen. So it's discouraging, but coming back to your question, Nigel, there have been a lot of messages that I keep getting on my social media telling me that, you're really inspiring me. It's tough, I know, but I never knew that these atrocities take place. And now that I know, I am thinking, I am reconsidering, I want to bring a change in my life.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, let's just say that you have a guest coming over for dinner. So, what would be your go-to dish, ma'am? Go-to vegan dish?
See, now it depends. If my guest came from a meat-eating background,
Alright.
right, then I would definitely serve him my korma curry. You do get something called vegan meat nowadays.
Yes, ma'am.
It feels like meat, it tastes like meat, right? But it's made out of plants,
Okay.
right? It's not soy. It's called vegan meat.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would probably give him a korma curry or a cutlet or something made out of the vegan meat,
Okay, ma'am.
right? And if the person came from a vegetarian background, then I would concentrate more on giving him cheese and raita, and I'll make all these things out of plants. You can make beautiful cheeses out of
Alright.
nuts, out of cashew nuts, out of almonds. There's a particular ingredient that you need to add to it, which gives it a cheesy flavor. That ingredient is basically called nutritional yeast.
Okay, ma'am.
So that's the go-to. I've been highly praised for it. In fact, there have been meat eaters who come and eat it and they could not, tell the difference between the actual meat and the vegan meat. So yeah, that's been encouraging. So therefore, the food business, trying to get people to realize that they can get the same flavor or at least very close to the same flavor from a plant-based diet, because vegan food or plant-based food is now phenomenal. Maybe not so much in Kolkata, right? But if you look at UK and you look at some parts of USA, you'll be amazed with the kind of vegan food they're producing. They're producing things like Beyond Burger. If you just Google these things, Beyond Meat, Beyond Burger, they just look like meat, they taste like meat. And these people are winning awards in high, well-recognized cookery shows. This gentleman, I think his name is Sunil Chhetri, right?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not very good with the sportsman.
Yes, Indian football captain.
And I think Virat Kohli also is in it. Their reasons might not be for ethical reasons. Their reasons might be for health reasons. But people are getting more interested in this.
Yes, ma'am.
And it has really come a long way from what it was, let's say, about 10 years ago. So there are a lot of benefits in it, Nigel, and the most important thing I feel is that you're not killing something else.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
you're not deliberately killing something else, and you're not deliberately hurting something else.
Yes, ma'am.
For it. So that's basically how it is.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, ma'am. It was truly a very delicious conversation.
Thank you, Nigel, for having me over. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Right, and I'm available on Facebook as Alexandra Gade, right?
Okay,
Alexandra Gade on Facebook, Gade. So D for dog.
Yes, ma'am. Sure thing, ma'am.
Yeah, so if anybody has any queries, they are most welcome to get in touch with me. If I can provide any guidance to anybody on this, I consider myself honored and privileged.
Well,
thank you so much, Nigel.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Right.
Hello everyone, I'm Mr. Greenmind and welcome back to Mr. Greenmind's workshop. Have you ever thought of purchasing a projector but have stopped yourself from spending way too much? But don't you worry, I'm here to save you some money by showing you a projector that you can make on your own at home. So let's get started. In order to make one, you'll be needing a shoebox, a magnifying glass and some styrofoam. First, you need to cut a hole big enough for the magnifying glass to be fit in on the front side of the shoebox. Second, you'll be needing some styrofoam to make a mobile holder just like I did. And lastly, putting the magnifying glass in place and spray painting or adding some cool artworks on your projector. And there, you have successfully made yourself a projector. If you happen to follow our steps and make a projector on your own, then do share it with us via email, WhatsApp or Facebook. Until then, Greenmind signing off.
Hi, I am your host Fiona and welcome back to Planet Pop. The theme I picked today for today's quiz is renewable energy. So while we connect to our callers, here are the rules. Hello?
Hello? Hello?
Hi, can I have your name please?
My name is Dominic.
Hi Dominic, thank you so much for calling in. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Are you ready for your questions?
Yes.
Okay, now, your first question is, we tend to assume that windmills are a modern invention, but that is actually incorrect. How far back can they actually be traced? Your options are the 15th century, the 6th century, 200 BC, or 700 BC.
I guess 6th century.
That answer is correct. Okay, let's move on to your second question. Which country is popularly known as Land of the Windmills? Netherlands, Poland, China, or Russia?
I think Poland.
No, I'm sorry. The answer is Netherlands. But thank you so much for calling in. It was lovely to have you on the show.
Welcome. Thank you for inviting.
Hello? Hi, can I have your name, please?
My name is Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for calling in. Are you ready for your questions?
Yes, I am.
Okay, your first question. Options for this one. Can you name two sources of renewable energy?
Solar and wind.
That answer is correct. Now, your second question. What was the worst nuclear disaster? Your options are the contamination of the Love Canal, the Chernobyl disaster, the 3 Mile Island explosion, or the Vizag explosion.
I think it's the Chernobyl disaster.
That answer is also correct. Thank you so much for calling in. It was so good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Both our callers will win prizes from earthsmiles.net. But that is not all for today, folks. I have one more question for the audience. This is an offline question, and you can send in your answers by WhatsApp within the next hour. So, your question for today is nuclear energy a renewable or a non-renewable source of energy? If you answer correctly, you will win the latest invention by Mr. Greenmind. Good luck!
Hello folks, I'm Nigel.
And I'm Michael, and you're watching Earth Minute.
Green activists and tree experts are voicing their concern over the unplanned manner in which trees are being planted across the city. They have urged Kolkata Municipal Corporation to take remedial measures to avoid the same mistakes that led to the loss of nearly 15,000 trees during the cyclone Amphan on May 20th.
What mistakes, Nigel?
Well, saplings are being planted without the thought to location or future growth. Trees that had been planted in a row are planted without considering the room for roots for stability or the location. Such plantation will only increase the likeliness of trees being knocked down again by the storms.
Okay, Nigel, that seems to be a serious problem.
It is, Mike. They should plan it carefully and then analyze the reasons behind the destruction so as to ensure they are planting proper varieties and at the right place.
And that's all for today, folks. We'll see you guys next week with more interesting news. Until then, stay safe and keep loving the planet you're on.
Oh, hi. I was just testing Mr. Greenmind's DIY projector. It sure is a good one. I hope you learned something from this edition of the Earth Updated show. We will come again with more interesting news and fun DIYs for everyone. Until then, stay safe and we will see you all next time.